say hello to a guy that's been at the helm of his school since 2007. He enjoyed an 11-1 record, their best in 8 years, when they also went 11-1 overall, unblemished in the Bay Rivers District. And we say hello to our pal Doug Pereira here on ESPN Radio 94.1. Coach, thanks for coming on. I tell you what, I was just walking around my neighborhood the other night, and I said to myself, boy, I should be covering a scrimmage right now. Have you been doing things like that on these nice summer nights, saying, man, I should be out here blowing the whistle?
Matt, first of all, thanks for having me on. It's always a pleasure to be on with you guys. I'm not joking when I tell you I am watching a football scrimmage in Ohio on TV as we speak.
Wow.
And last night I was on NFHS trying to desperately to find a decent game. I was watching some game going on in Utah last night. Just kind of my way of trying to deal with the situation right now.
Yeah, that's right. Utah, I believe, the first to do it, and I think they're promoting online this big game with I forget who it is, Duncanville out of Texas, or somebody. So it's a really strange feeling, because generally this time of year we're worried about the weather affecting us with football. We've had hurricane type situations in the rain, but right now I know this is really tough to digest for all your kids, especially the seniors, knowing the uncertainty of what lies ahead.
Yeah, I mean, the thing I tell people that are not involved directly with football is, pick out your favorite hobby, whether it be fishing, whether it be, hunting, fixing cars, whatever it is. For a lot of us coaches, football is our passion. It's our hobby. A lot of players, while they're playing, it's their hobby. And that's kind of been taken out because of the COVID situation. Can a fisherman who's been fishing all of his life all of a sudden be told one day, no, you can't fish anymore? That's kind of how it feels.
It really does. And let's kind of rewind, though, some good times, because last year, one of the best in York's program's history, and you guys knocked off Lafayette, ended their winning streak, got to the postseason, and you had that wild game. I imagine it's got to be one of the craziest you've been a part of, 55-40 in the opening round of the playoffs, beating Petersburg before you fell to a very good Phoebus squad. I mean, it had to put a lot of smiles on your faces coming home on Friday nights and into Saturday mornings.
Obviously a very fun season. Was very blessed to be able to enjoy it with the players and coaches I had this past year. The senior class was awesome. The Lafayette thing first, I say this respectfully toward Lafayette, toward Andy Lynn, for all those years that they were beating all these Bay Rivers teams. It went from a scenario of, man, we're going to beat Lafayette to, man, I hope we're the team that beats Lafayette when they finally lose, and we were blessed enough to be that team. And then the Petersburg game was just wild. Petersburg, they had some talent, and to open up the playoffs like that, because our defense was pretty stellar all year, and to have them put the points they put up, but also to have us, our offense was just in high gear at that point, so we weren't being stopped either. For anybody who came to watch some high school football, that was an entertaining night for sure.
And you had a bunch of seniors on that squad this past season. What was the final count of those seniors?
Yeah, we had 22 seniors, and of the 22, I believe it was like 15 or 16 of them that came all the way through from third, fourth grade on. Very, very tight knit group.
Did anything surprise you about that group? I mean, I imagine in the offseason, I remember getting your survey, and we had you on, I think, after the win over Lafayette. You felt this was a pretty good team. Did they get better as the year went on? And I don't want to say meet or exceed expectations, but did you kind of learn something about the group as you went on the journey?
Going into that season, if I had a concern, it would be, a concern that most coaches would have with a group like that, and that they would isolate themselves from the rest of the team. And my pleasant surprise was that it was the exact opposite. They really took everybody else in, brought them all in, the juniors and sophomores we had on the squad. They realized, we're going to need everybody to win and to be successful. That was one. And then the other big surprise was we had a lot of guys, a lot of skill position players that were very talented. We were pretty deep. And, we had scenarios during the season. I remember the final regular season game, we're undefeated, playing against undefeated War Hill for the Bay Rivers title. And the game is as tight as could be. And I had players on my sideline, trying to tell me, listen, we need to get this guy a touchdown. I'm good. I got mine. We need to get this guy a touchdown, or that guy. And I'm laughing, telling the guys going, how about we just worry about scoring? I don't care who scores at this point. But that was the makeup of this group, and that's how they rolled. And, it just made it more fun, more special with this group of guys that I had last year.
Talking with Doug Pereira. He's the head football coach of the York Falcons, coming off an unblemished record there in the Bay Rivers District. Our guest here on 757 Saturday Sports Talk. It's ESPN Radio 94.1. And I want to hit on that here before I get to kind of the future here, Coach. The Bay Rivers District for years was talked about, they're not the level of the Peninsula District. But you look at last season, I mean, you guys were really good. Lafayette, War Hill had a great season as well. Pecoson's always tough and gritty, and there's some others that have had their moments in the Bay Rivers. I know there was kind of that, for years, a gap between the Peninsula and the Bay Rivers. I don't make my PD fans and friends over there mad, but that gap has certainly shrunk to where there's some nights where the Bay Rivers can play with anybody.
So in the past couple of years, with playoffs and just general scheduling, we've played more games against the PD than ever, and the Bay Rivers has a winning record against the Peninsula District in the last 2 years.
That's right.
And I'm not saying that to try to build us up and build down, bring them down in any way, shape, or form. But, the Bay Rivers and Peninsula District are two very different districts when it comes to football, really any sport. Bay Rivers for years had a lot of wing tee, had a lot of its own style of football, where the Peninsula had its own version that was separate. And that's still the case, but it doesn't make one or the other better than the other at this present moment. That's just kind of where we are. I say that, and Phoebus and Woodside at the top of there, you don't fool with those guys. They're good. They're real good. But at the same time, the BRD has got some talent. We're pretty daggone good over here too.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I'll get to this bowl game method with you in a second, but update us on some of your players that have gone on to college, where they're at, and you can highlight those from the most recent 2019 squad if you like, or previous ones. And then in addition to that, since we don't have the Saturday mornings for the time being, as far as talking about last night's results, we hope to get that here in the late winter, early spring. Tell us about some guys that could join some of those players at the next level.
Sure. I hope I don't forget names here, but I've got a couple of guys at Bridgewater right now from a couple of years back. Jaden Flood Brown, our running back from last year, is at Lewisburg College right now, the JUCO, putting in his time there, getting ready. We sent 5 guys to Shenandoah. Brandon Tolbert, Cole Chapin, Stevie Graham. Oh my gosh! I hope I remember all these guys.
Listen, if you don't, they'll just call you later and say, "Coach, you forgot about me on the radio." So we'll get it patched out next time or something.
Dude, that is the greatest fear of a coach. I'm not lying about that. It is. But Keaston Hutchinson's over there now, and we have guys that have moved on to the next level. We have a couple. We have one at CNU, Jake Berry from a couple of years back, who's doing a great job over there. And so, we've been able to send our guys out. Of course, we've got Darius Reynolds, who's a senior at Richmond, who's one of the big stars to come out of here. And, so it's been really cool to have those guys be able to move on and play at the next level. And as far as players we have right now, we're a little on the young side right now, but I love the talent. I love what I have coming back this year. We'll look slightly different. And we can get into that later. But bottom line, I've got a couple of guys. I've got a kid named Rashad Stepney, who is a rising senior. He's got multiple offers by D3 schools, and it's like the engineering type of schools. Like, I don't think he's sticking in Virginia. I think he's heading north somewhere. He hasn't decided yet, but one of the schools that he's been kind of looking at up north, I think he's going to head that way. We have a rising junior named Jordan Lennon, and Jordan will be playing running back, defensive end, and kicker for us this year. Very talented guy who I think is going to get himself some offers when it's all said and done, or before it's said and done. And we have a lineman that stands out right now, too, named Oliver Slosser. And I know this. He's applied to the Naval Academy. They are doing some recruiting of him right now a little bit. We're going to see how that turns out. But Ollie's a great kid, and I think he'll for sure be playing at the next level. They're the ones that stand out. We have a guy named Case Butler who's being looked at by Averett right now, and then we have a guy named Joe Morris who we call Mojo, who he's a little under the radar at the moment, but I think before his senior season is done, he's going to be looking to be playing somewhere for sure too.
Talking with Doug Pereira, he's the head football coach of the York Falcons, coming off an unblemished regular season in the Bay Rivers District. Our guest here on 757 Saturday Sports Talk on ESPN Radio 94.1. Couple more minutes here with the head man there at York High. And, Coach, I've been reading, I understand you were the brainchild behind it, at least from what I'm hearing and reading online, this bowl game method that the Virginia High School League is at least flirting with. Tell us more about the concept, and do you think it's something that can be put into place for a football season here in about, 5, 6, 7 months?
Sure. So being a guy who grew up playing high school football in the 80s and what the college model looked like back then, I was literally sitting in a chair one day thinking about, this was back when we thought we were still going to play in the fall but maybe have a condensed season. And I came up with the idea in my head of, why don't we not worry as much about a playoff if we have a condensed season? Because I'm more concerned about max amount of games. And so I kind of brought that idea up, sent a letter in or an email into the VHSL. And so the model was we all played the same amount of games. And then at the end of the season, everyone plays a postseason bowl game against a team with a like record from the same division or whatever, so that we're all guaranteed the max amount of games in a condensed season. That was my thinking. I hadn't even mentioned or thought about the part that the VHSL came back with if they don't have playoffs, they stand a chance of going bankrupt. And so this kind of saves that concept of them making their money in the playoffs if we do bowl games, because there's 310 teams. That's 155 bowls. So things have morphed a little bit since then about, maybe what this model could look like. Maybe we still do a FBS model where the top four at the end of the season still go to their semifinal and final, and everyone else plays a bowl. And that's cool. All I care about is this. This is about the players. And, York High School, I think, is a playoff football team this year. So this is not about making sure my guys get their games. It's about every team in the state maximizing the opportunity for these players to get on the field.
What's been the feedback from others, be it coaches, be it people in the administrative offices at your school, other schools, the Virginia High School League? What's been the feedback? And I guess, is there really a negative to them? I mean, they all want to win championships. I mean, I know the kids and coaches do, but if we get to that point, sort of like you touched on, where we can't even have enough weeks on the calendar to have a postseason, what are they saying why they wouldn't do it?
Well, the Virginia High School League did come back with this whole, this is a genius idea. We love it. Okay. We'll see what happens, this and that. From what I'm hearing, what little I'm hearing, it appears it's heading in a direction, at least something like what I was talking about, but I don't know that for a fact. As far as coaches' feedback, I was at an FCA or a men's breakfast this morning at my church with Matt Lawson. He and I go to the same church, the head coach of Tab High School, and we're good friends. And he even presented an idea. Why don't we play 8 games, everyone go to a bowl, and then we have a semifinal week and a final week after that to get all, to still get championships to make those guys who deserve a championship, have their opportunity. I'm totally in support of that too. That's cool. And then I've heard some coaches say, genius idea. I've heard other coaches say, no, I'm like, come on, man, we got to have our playoffs. And that's fine. I totally understand where everybody's coming from with that. My thing is this. I look at a model of 6 games to me doesn't feel like enough games. 8 games to me, okay, I can live with 8 games. And that's just a number in my own personal head. Who knows how it's all going to work out. I know that there are other states I've heard of that have come up with some of these ideas too. Maybe some of these states playing in the fall. I don't know what South Dakota's doing, for instance. They might have a model like this at the end of the year too. But, we have to think outside of the box right now. That's the obvious given.
Well, I got two more for you to let you run. I appreciate the time, Coach. The 6 games not being enough, I kind of feel that way in this regard, and only this regard, because to me, 6 is better than nothing. But say you get a team that gets a schedule in a district where they play those 5 or 6 teams in their district that are not as strong, and I don't know how even it's going to be for determining a postseason. And like Coach Lawson sort of said, if you go with an 8-game, everyone goes to a bowl game, then you have a semifinal and a final week, almost in a lot of ways copying or mirroring what the colleges do with the FBS level. That's kind of appeasing both sides of the parties, isn't it?
Yes, I would say I agree with that, and that's exactly what Matt said. All credit to him on that this morning for what he said. He's right. I believe that would be the case. And the cool thing is that the bowl games would still act as like a quarterfinal week to those teams that might be moving on.
Right.
So it's actually, I think the FBS should look at it, to be honest with you. But, I mean, it's actually a pretty cool idea, and it's really a simple idea and concept. That's the main thing. And then businesses across the state could get involved in sponsoring these games. I mean, this could become a very interesting concept from a lot of different angles. So, we'll see how it turns out. My thing right now, Matt, is this: that these few states playing football right now, they've got to survive it. I am so rooting for Alabama, for Tennessee, those states who have started football to get through it, because if they do, then we've got a legit shot in the spring.
Absolutely. If they don't, it could be a very perilous situation. And last part on that, because we brought it up earlier with Coach Young here on the program, I do worry about where we are with the state of high school sports, Doug, in the sense of we're seeing every day, and it's nothing new with transfers, but kids transferring, reclassifying, and now we're seeing a lot of kids from some of the better programs in the state. Not only are they looking to enroll early in college, which is completely fine and within their right to do, and some you would even encourage to do if they have that opportunity, the Tony Grimeses, the Malik Newtons of the world. But even the kids that aren't of that caliber, we're seeing kids, underclassmen kids, that are deciding to go to other states and leave this state and reclassify and try to, as I've used the phrase, more not lose the year than gain the year, but in a sense they're also gaining the year. Give me your feeling on it, Coach, what you can do to this, and does it bother you, worry you a lot?
All right, so the Bay Rivers coaches and myself have been back and forth on this a little bit with some of the stuff that's going on as we speak, and it bothers me a little bit. It more or less annoys me more than anything than bothers me, and just personally with some of the stuff. Now, for instance, the kid over at Hopewell, the Henderson kid who's going to Ohio State, okay, he was going to graduate in December anyway. That totally makes sense. I get that.
Yep.
Some guys feeling the need to transfer to a private school now to get more playing time, whatever, that's fine. I'm cool with that too. I'll tell you this, Matt, and maybe this is the coach in me who's been doing this for a little while. I'm of the next man up theory. If a kid transfers, move on. And you coach what you have on the field. And don't get me wrong, I would never want one of my York kids to transfer. I love my guys. I want them to stay. But if a kid decides he's going to transfer, sure, I might be a little upset about that. I might be annoyed. Okay, who's the next kid? Let's move on. And that's kind of my mentality with it. And that's high school sports. Every year we move on. So, but I will tell you, this COVID thing, is causing a lot of reset buttons in a lot of ways with high school sports, with sports in general. Some of it is very frightening, and then some of it I feel like is stuff that could happen that we need to have happen anyway. So a lot of different ways to look at it, but that's kind of how I see it.
That's a complicated issue, and I'm sure something we'll delve into in the future. He is the head football coach of the York Falcons, Doug Pereira, so kind of join us. Thank you so much. Best wishes to you and your family and your football team, and we'll touch base down the road, all right?
Matt, thank you again, and as always, thanks for all the stuff you do for high school sports in our state. Very valuable person to have around here, man.
Much appreciated. Thank you, Coach.
Okay, yep. All right, bye-bye.
That's Doug Pereira with us here on 757 Saturday Sports Talk. We'll take a timeout, and we'll tell you about maybe one of the best places to go to for college players that are trying to reach the NBA that you might not ordinarily think of. That's coming your way on ESPN Radio 94.1.